Hey everybody, welcome back. We got another episode of Unfiltered for you today. This is a channel where we dismantle lies and unmask agendas to seek to twist faith, freedom, and truth in the church and in our communities today, right? My name is Ted. I'm your host, the Unfiltered Christian, and we got another one for you. We got a good one for you. We're going to be finally finishing up the spiritual abuse series. We're going to finish both out today, right? We spent the last few episodes walking through the 5 signs of spiritual abuse, uncovering how isolation, guilt, and suppression of disagreement can wreak havoc in the lives of sincere believers, right? So today, we've arrived at the final episode in the series. But we're not just closing quietly, guys, because the last 2 signs don't just appear in abusive systems. They actually drive them. So let's go. All right, so like I said, we're looking at the last 2 signs today, right? Narcissistic leadership and spiritual threats. These are the 2 that form the backbone of spiritual abuse, you guys. They're the roots from which everything else grows. Suppression, manipulation, fear. It all starts with a leader who believes the church exists to serve them, and a culture where questioning that leader is seen as rebellion against God himself, right? And the scary part of it is that it all looks so spiritual. That's the part that I hate the most. But here's the truth. Spiritual abuse rooted in narcissism doesn't just hurt people. It reshapes entire church cultures. And when narcissism joins forces with spiritual threats, it becomes almost impossible to spot until the damage is already done, right? We don't even see it until it's too late. That's why it's so bad. So today, we're exposing the playbook. We're going to pull back the curtain on how narcissistic leaders build loyalty and control narratives and keep people tethered, not to Christ, but to their mission, using spiritual intimidation as their insurance policy, okay? So let's start with the foundation, you guys. You might be wondering, what's that, right? Well, it's the mission. It's always the mission, right? The mission is the tool of manipulation, you guys. And what is the mission usually about? Well, for the most part, it's always about a bigger church building, right? To bring in more people, to tithe more money into the pastor's pocket. Mission. The mission is usually tied to constant fundraising and often benefits the leader's image or lifestyle, right? Obedience and giving become tests of loyalty to God, not stewardship or wisdom. In spiritually abusive systems, the narcissistic leader's mission replaces God's mission, right? And who are you to question it? After all, it's their church they built. It's their pulpit they stand in. You're just a supporting cast member in their play, you guys. Sure, they'll all say it's about Jesus, but over time, if you pay attention, you start to realize that everything revolves around one person's vision or their preferences or their goals. But here's where the spiritual threats come in. When you start to question the direction or even ask for clarity, you don't just get a leadership lecture, right? You get a spiritual warning. You'll hear things like, this is what God told me. If you're not with the vision, you're against the vision. Don't touch God's anointed. We all love that one, right? That's one of our favorites. This vision was given by God. We're doing kingdom work. Don't get distracted. See what they did there? The narcissistic mission becomes so sacred, it's protected with spiritual fear tactics. Disagreeing isn't just insubordination, you guys. It's rebellion against God himself. And that's how these leaders maintain their grip, not just through charisma, but through fear, guilt, and the threat of divine punishment. The narcissist's mission is the true God of the house in abusive churches, you guys. Make no mistake. Everything, the vision, the direction, even doctrine, bows to one person's mission. Disagreeing is treated as all-out disobedience to God's plan by someone who claims to have a hotline to heaven. They deliberately confuse and replace loyalty to God with loyalty to the mission. You see, narcissistic leaders rarely point people to themselves directly. They often hide behind a bigger mission. They say, this is kingdom work. They warn you not to get distracted. And little by little, disagreement with their methods becomes disobedience to God himself. Anyone who questions a mission gets framed as rebellious, with threats of being someone who's quenching the spirit. You ever heard that one? Resisting the call, or hindering revival. See, these are spiritual threats dressed up as pastoral discernment or divine authority, right? It's sick. Before long, the mission becomes sacred, and the man who leads it becomes untouchable. Not because he says it so outright, but because he's wrapped himself in language that makes questioning him feel like questioning God, you guys. That's not humility. That's spiritual intimidation. I want to be absolutely clear about this, you guys. In a system like this, loyalty is everything. The people you see who speak during services have been so deeply conditioned or rewarded that everything they say just reinforces the same narrative, right? It creates the illusion of unity, but it's really just people who've been trained to parrot what keeps them in good standing with the pastor, the leaders. You're only valuable as long as you make the leader and their mission look good. I'm going to say that again, you guys. You're only valuable as long as you make the leader and their mission look good. Does that sound familiar to any of you? Another tool that narcissistic leaders use is projection to protect their image, right? Projection is one of their favorite weapons. Narcissistic leaders often accuse others of the very things they themselves are guilty of, you guys. If they're manipulative, they'll accuse you of manipulation. If they crave control, they'll make it spiritual and warn the church about controlling spirits, right? They always make everything so super spiritual. This tactic keeps people off balance and constantly self-checking, while the real issue stays hidden behind spiritual language and false accusations. Projection creates a fog. It clouds judgment and confuses discernment. And that's exactly what it's designed to do, you guys. So what happens to you in a system like this? You start to feel confused. Your spiritual hunger gets twisted into performance. Your loyalty is demanded, but never reciprocated. You stop asking questions because every time you do, the conversation somehow circles back to what you're doing wrong. See, this is gaslighting at its finest. It's not just emotional abuse. In a spiritual setting, it becomes a tool to control your thoughts, your beliefs, and even your view of God, or their view of God, right? You're not crazy for feeling confused, you guys. Narcissistic leadership thrives on gaslighting, making you second guess your instincts, your memories, and even your understanding of scripture, which is the worst part. But spiritual threats take it a step further. They don't just confuse you, they scare you into silence. So many people walk away from these churches believing they were the problem. You weren't. You were in a system where your gifts were a threat to exposing the wizard behind the curtain.
Oh, the great Oz has spoken. Oh, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Your honesty was unwanted, you guys, and your presence was only welcome as long as you stayed silent and useful. God never calls you to shrink for someone else's ego. If you felt like you had to become smaller, quieter, or more dependent to stay in someone's good graces, that's not discipleship. It's control. And when they use God's name to keep you in that place, that's just plain abuse. Spiritual abuse distorts our view of God. But the truth is, he's not like the narcissist who claimed to represent him, you guys. He's not insecure. He's not controlling. He's not threatened by your questions like most of these little guys in the pulpit. He's not building a kingdom around one person's ego or mission. He's building a kingdom where the last will be first and where your voice, your heart, and your healing matters. You're not hard to love. You are not too broken to heal. You are not alone. What happened to you in that system was not your fault, and it doesn't define you. You were never the problem. Their control was. God isn't asking you to shrink, perform, or prove yourself. He delights in your honesty. He welcomes your questions, and he's more committed to your healing than any institution ever was to your pain. Real love, the kind that reflects Christ, doesn't demand silence. It invites you to breathe again. It brings us to the end of it. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, okay? Remember to share this with someone who needs to know that they're not alone and that there is hope for them. We'll see you in the next one, all right? Speak up and stay unfiltered, guys. Peace.